Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back. Everybody got your steaming cup of reason, I hope. I know I got mine. Can't live without it. Good to be back with you, folks. Been a week. It's been a fun week, an interesting week, kind of a dull week as well. Go figure. Yeah, but I had fun this week. Worked on a project with a friend, and it all turned out really, really well. So I'm quite pleased. So I got with me the winner from last week's first little contest, our Wuzzles contest, and Sableagle won it with Bats in the Belfry, and he's with us tonight. Say hello, Sable.
Hello, Sable.
Now, why did I know you were going to do that, smartass? All right, so as usual, no real set topic. We just talk about whatever hits the fan and sticks. So does anybody have anything interesting? Let's see who we've got with us tonight. Of course, Chris Durham has to work, so he'll be listening later. But thanks for stopping by and letting us know, Chris. And of course, Clive Wells is in the house. Hello, Clive. Always good to see you. We've got Mystique playing the lurker today. Come on, Tina, don't lurk. Jump in, have some fun. And we've got the plot hole with us. Hello, Johnny. How are you doing, sir? Great video today. Congratulations. Big time numbers you're going to get out of that. I just know it. It's fantastic. And who else we got? Hi, Inquisitor. Hello. How are you, sir? Good to see you. We've got FE Peer Review with us. I don't believe I've seen you here before. Or maybe you have been and I just can't remember. I'm an old bugger. You know, at my age, you forget things easily. So, but welcome. Always good to see you. So how has your week been there, Sableagle? Have you had anything interesting happen?
Not much. I'm currently in a situation of having a lineup of jobs that I probably should have started sooner because I need to sneak into the riverbed while the water's low to steal rocks to put against the riverbank elsewhere to shore it up so that I can protect it from erosion so that I have a space behind the protection to put the rubble from filtering, sifting through the compost bins so that I can get the compost out and make some space in the bins so that I have somewhere to put all the cuttings from the hedges. It's one of those jobs where I have to do this, I need to do that, to do that, I need to do that, to do that, I need to do that, to do that, I need to do that, to do that. I need the water level to be below there.
So you've got your hands full, I take it.
Not as full as they should be, but, you know, lingering damage from being a fool in my youth means I can't really, fill them every hour.
Are you still on kind of a partial lockdown over there?
I don't actually know. I think they've relaxed a lot of stuff, and they were talking about relaxing more, but people are not wearing masks and not bothering with stuff anyway, and they have a trolley wash thing where you can get some tissue and some hand sanitizer and some soapy liquid and wipe down your own trolley.
Wow.
But there's no tissue in it, or there's no hand sanitizer, or...
So it's kind of a useless thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well. At least things are kind of loosening up for you.
Yeah, the problem with that from a virologist's point of view is that the more they loosen up, the more the virus is going to spread. And the more it spreads, each time it goes from one person to, well, each time it goes from one cell to another, but think of it as each time it goes from one person to another, there is some tiny probability of a mutation. Yeah. So we have this virus which waits 2 days before you becoming infected. You've got 2 days before you're infectious, during which the South Korean approach of, you have been exposed to someone who has tested positive, don't go anywhere, don't meet anyone until we can get a test kit to you, can actually prevent you infecting anyone. Then you have 10 days of being infectious before you start feeling ill. And then you get sick and you get tested and they find out you're infected. And then you go into isolation. Well, if that goes down to 6 hours before you become infectious and 15 days before you start feeling any symptoms, it's going to spread a whole lot better. Or it could just become more infectious. Different viruses are better at spreading. Or we could have a mutation where it starts being able to go back and forth from human to pigeon, which is going to make some town centres very dangerous places to be.
Yeah.
Or that
Yeah,
mutation that makes it kill like 10% instead of 2.5% of its victims and cripple 90% instead of 30% of the ones who survive, which would be bad.
Yeah,
Well, for the
that
hell
would
of it,
be
you
really
could pick up
bad.
all of those mutations at once, and each time it spreads from person to person, even if they don't get sick, is a chance for one of them to produce that new Omega strain. Dun, dun, dun.
The death strain. Turn you into a zombie. Yeah. But you're
Zombies are
right.
not so
I
bad.
mean,
At least if it's the green flu, you can tell they're infected from the way they're just hammering on a portaloo because it goes bonk when they do, and you can shoot them in the head and no one complains.
well, it's got to end soon. That's all I can say. I mean, it's good that places are starting to open up and things are starting to relax a bit. But as you said, you still have to be careful because it can come back and bite you in the butt really, really quick. So don't stop wearing your masks, folks.
In the first place.
Yeah. Every time I come in the house, my lady is telling me, wash your hands right away. She walks around with a spray bottle. She sprays everything with disinfectant. God love her. She's really on the ball with protecting herself. Sometimes it's a little over the top, but at least she's going beyond the call of what's required. And more people should take that hint,
Yeah, that's another one of those things we were talking about pre-show, where if you already have a spare million, you're a whole lot better off because you have a separate entrance you can designate as an infected area. You have a shower there you can use. You have a full spare set of clothes. You can have a set of clothes that you use to do the shopping. You can undress into the washing machine, have a shower and put on clean gear, and you can have two fridges and two sets of cupboards, and you stock them alternating. But for people who are living paycheck to paycheck and living in a two-room, that is the bathroom, toilet, shower room, everything. That is the bedroom, living room, dining room, and kitchen, and that's all you have, apartment. There just isn't room to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, for the most part, that's what my girl does. She goes out. When she comes back, right away she's got her clothes in the wash. She makes me do the same. So we do what we can to protect ourselves, but it does sometimes seem like a bit much.
The really sad part is that all of the lockdowns and all of the precautions and everything, apart from at borders, could have been over by June 2020. If we'd done it right in the first place, the virus would have run out of new victims to infect, and that would have been it.
Yeah. When you started seeing all those crazies going out saying, nothing's going to happen, this is all bullshit, not following the rules, they should have been come down on harder sooner and just stop that crap altogether. We'd probably be out of it by now.
Look at Louisiana last year. No cases. No cases at all. No cases at all to the 25th of February. No cases at all to 2 weeks after the 25th. Sorry, 10 days, average time from exposure to onset of symptoms, after the 25th of February, when suddenly they have cases, and then they have dozens of cases, and then they have hundreds of cases. Why? 25th of February, Mardi Gras. People from all over the country coming to cram together in the streets and party with no precautions whatsoever.
Next thing you know, you've got millions.
Everybody who's willing to snog you.
Yeah.
That was clever.
It just grows exponentially with one infected person, It's horrible. Clive Wells says there are only so many ways this virus can mutate. If it had been stopped in Wuhan, that would have been even better. You're right. But unfortunately, it probably already spread well beyond Wuhan before we even knew about it.
That's what I was saying about the mutation going from... Take the Mataba one from that film Outbreak in 1995. Anyone who's infected is dead within 48 hours.
Yeah.
And Dustin Hoffman or whatever his name is, this is the scariest I've ever seen. Well, actually, from a local point of view, if that's in your village, that is utterly terrifying. If someone coughs on you, you are going to be dead within 48 hours. But from a national point of view, from a managing a pandemic point of view, that's really, really easy. 48 hours, you don't even need to drink to live 48 hours, and you have tap water. Just stay the hell home.
Yeah.
60
Absolutely.
hours later, if there is no dead body in your house, nobody in your house is infected, and your house is out of lockdown, problem solved. Right?
Well, the plot hole says he's got some interesting topics. What do you got for us, plot hole? Throw it in the chat. We'll gladly look at it. Absolutely. Anybody, if you've got something you want to share with us, just tag me in the chat. We'll bring it up and talk about it for sure. That's what we're here for. Share and share alike. Awesome.
That
So,
film started off good. It could have been great, but if they'd gone 3/4 of the way through the film, and then everything had carried on being horribly wrong, rather than just going like Deus ex machina, you can now clone proteins, and so on, just like magic, fix everything for the last 10 minutes because we need to wrap this up. Imagine the exact same situation as Outbreak, but instead of dead within 48 hours, it's you feel fine for 3 whole weeks. Then you get sick and die within 48 hours. By the time you know you're sick, you've already traveled to Mardi Gras and come back via your grandparents' house and infected loads of people at Mardi Gras and loads of people and infected your grandparents, and they've infected their the local bridge club, and they've gone and infected at the school. And you don't know where the virus is. One person gets sick here. You don't have to know where they've been in the last 48 hours. You have to know where they've been in the last 3 weeks. That's a lot harder. And like I mentioned, the pigeons. How the hell do you quarantine pigeons?
We did try. We did try to just shut it down before it spread, but the problem is there are too many people out there who just ignored it and just said, "I don't give a shit. I don't believe it. It's all fake." And they just went on their merry way. Those are the idiots that spread it and got us to where we are now.
Oh yeah, South Korea, that one preacher with a mega church, and they went from 10,000 cases to 20,000 in a week or something horrible.
Yeah, and you don't even know it till it's too late, and that's the problem. So.
Well, plot holes brought up a different subject. Earlier, he said YouTube aren't pushing his video about the slime balls because he was mentioning slime balls, and they don't want discussion of slime balls on their platform. So if you're busy exposing and debunking slime balls, your content gets pushed to the back. Yeah,
it's true. The ones that are spreading the misinformation and the bullshit, they're left alone. But when we try to fight it and debunk it, we're the ones who get shut down and punished. A good example is today's video from Johnny O. That was a fantastic video. Have you seen it? It's a great video, and he put in so much great work into that. But they yellow carded him because YouTube found it to be too controversial, which is bullshit. I mean, we need more Johnny O's out there exposing issues with people and things that are happening, not be punished and shut down, So I say kudos to you, Johnny. You did a great job, and hopefully there will be other ways to get that going, and the hell with the yellow card. So, yeah. Did you see his Hovind video this morning?
I did, and I saw Rachel Oates, I think it was, did a video. Might have been Illuminati. Did a video with the whole audio because that assault and battery and actual bodily harm and domestic violence felony went to court. The recording actually got subpoenaed. It got claimed
Really?
as evidence and was made available to the defence. And the defence were able to use the same recording that Hovind had been planning to use to make his wife look crazy so that he could take control of all her assets, to actually expose what he'd been doing. But because he was then lying about it in public after the case, his wife actually published the whole audio. Once the case was over and he was lying about it, it was no longer sealed as evidence, and she was able to just say, look, this is what actually happened, and published the whole thing. And another channel went through it, the whole lot. And it was worse than what you hear on the plot hole on Johnny Ives' video. It was really unpleasant to listen to.
Yeah, that's a crazy situation with that idiot, and the people that he's involved in. I mean, that's got to get shut down. Really, it does. Absolutely. He's just
mean, literally. I mean, people disagree. Contra as in against, and verse as in word, speaking. So some people have a different story or a different opinion. Because it is literally controversial if there are still, fundamentalist cultists out there, fundamentalist cult zealots, let's call them. Or crusaders, why not? Who think that being a member of a particular church gives you the divine right to grant a prima noctem on 8-year-olds.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's the sickening, creepy part about it, It just creeps me out, that whole bunch. And Flutter peer review. And yet there was another woman waiting in the wings to take her place. Some people are just plain nuts. I agree. Hello, Nimrod. Welcome. Yeah. So anybody in the side chat, would you like to add anything to this conversation, or do you have something else you want to bring up? We're always watching the side chat, always looking for something new to talk about. That's what we're here for. Remember, all you need to do is tag me in the side chat, and we'll get it read out. So just keep tagging me if I miss it. I'll see it eventually. So absolutely. Nimrod says, why is it that the worst nut jobs are always religious? That's a good question, Sable. What do you think?
That could be one of those things. Well, that is one of those things where you don't know whether it's causation one way or the other, or shared causation.
Yeah. I don't really know how to... It's true, though. It does seem rather conspicuously coincidental that the two always seem to come together,
ice cream sales and murders peak at the same time of year. Not that ice cream causes murder, or that people whose friends have been murdered eat a lot of ice cream. They're both associated with hot weather.
Yeah. Hello, Colon. How you doing? Good to see you. Clive says, does 06452-017 have a new prison number? I don't know. Johnny, can you answer that? I would think he likely will. I don't think your prison ID number stays with you for subsequent terms.
Right. Is it that being nuts makes them susceptible to religion?
Well, it could.
Being religious drives them insane? Or could it be that the really terrible people find the idea of standing at the front of the room and telling everybody else how to behave and what is right and wrong, and that only he is allowed to judge them, and that no one is allowed to judge him, really appealing?
I kind of think it's almost the other way around. I mean, when you look at their holy book kind of thing, there's some pretty brutal stuff in there from way back in the old days, and I think they think that stuff is still okay today.
Oh yeah, that book of peaceful, loving, merciful, kind, generous God who encouraged you to chuck your slave girls out to be raped to death by a mob rather than paying off your debts.
That's right, and taking the wives and daughters of the people you enslave and doing that to them. I mean, I just don't get it.
Brains out against rocks. That's always popular. Yeah. He's really into that.
Yeah, I think any supreme being that would ask me to take the life of my son to prove myself, I'd tell him to go shove it. That's the way I see it. Blue Feather, aloha, welcome. Good to see you. So, yeah. So, what is it that you do when you're working, Sable? I mean, what's your profession or
At the moment, I'm actually between professions.
Are you?
Yeah.
From what to what?
From a brief stint in the army, which gave me all kinds of interesting and lasting problems, to whatever's next, really.
Ah, gotcha. What were you doing in the army? What was your trade?
I was a linguist, so I was one of those people who could interview the refugees from Yugoslavia when that fell apart.
Okay.
Because they might have useful information.
Interesting. Wow. I was in the army myself when I was a young man. Spent 3 years in the service, but I was a radio operator, a combat communications specialist.
All right, you're one of those people who has the range and power settings exactly memorized then.
Well, we did at the time. We had to, but I can't remember them now to save my life. Matter of fact, I've forgotten most of the Morse code I used back then. I mean, if I started trying it again, it would come back to me fairly quickly, but right now I couldn't read a Morse code message because I've forgotten a lot of it. It's been so long ago. Interesting.
There was someone in the RAF told me that I mentioned something about it started because I was chatting to someone's boyfriend in the bar in Morse code. And it was annoying her because she didn't understand it, but we understood each other just fine. And she was going, "Stop it! I know you're talking about me. I can tell."
Well, go learn Morse code and find out.
Someone in the RAF said, "Don't pretend you know Morse code because you don't." So I whistled, "Shut the fuck up, you stupid crab fat wank stain," at him in Morse code.
That's funny. They probably took it as a compliment. Oh, well, thank you.
I didn't actually understand it, so.
Excuse me. Clive Wells says, statistically, there is a connection between religiosity and low education. Perhaps the criminal tendency is more related to the low education. Oh, I suppose that could be. I don't know though. I've met some pretty devout Christians that are really intelligent people. FE peer review. Sableagle has had time to do wonderful walks in the countryside and shoot lots of beautiful footage. I've enjoyed watching his videos. Well, there you go. You've got an admirer.
Yeah, unfortunately, at this time of year, the weather is either grey due to rain, grey due to low cloud, or the sun is shining straight into your camera anytime you look south. Too far from the equator for winter videos to work. It's all right if I'm looking north, I just need to find places where the good view is north of me.
Well, you really do need a sun filter in the winter because of snow, you get the glare. It does help. It does make a difference. The plot hole says, what are your thoughts on the Baldwin shooting? It's something I think should never have happened, Johnny O. It all comes down to safety on set. That guns should never be stored loaded in the first place. And when they are loaded, there should be someone there watching them loaded to make sure that blanks are going in and not live rounds. So yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for what happened there. And like I said, it all comes down to on-set safety. That's my take on it. What about you?
Oh, that was a clusterfuck that was inevitable because they weren't following certain rules. One of the rules, if you're doing things on set, and actually on a military exercise, is that you divide the live firing weapons and the blank firing weapons by caliber. So the people who are along accompanying your exercise to protect you from a terrorist attack during the exercise are loaded with live 4.5 ACP and 7.62 by 51 millimeter, and your exercise is using blank 9 by 19 millimeter and 5.56 by 45. And there are no live 5.56 millimeter rounds anywhere around. Or 9 by 19. And what they apparently did, well, actually, it's possible that was a blank firing gun and he managed to fire pieces of the cartridge into someone, which is a different problem. But what has happened in some cases is that people have had a live round in a gun that was supposed to be loaded with blank rounds and shot an actor with it when they were supposed to fire a blank in his general direction. Which is, somebody way back where they were planning what guns would be involved screwed up, but also Alec Baldwin screwed up. Because rule one is that all times you point that gun in the direction in which you'll be least unhappy about firing it. Like, point it at a sand dune, point it down at a steep angle into deep water where nobody is swimming. If necessary, you point it down through the floor of a helicopter, not up into the engine, but ideally out of the window and down at a steep angle into deep water where nobody is swimming. If you're on a boat, up into the air and out to sea, not down through the hull, but not at your own foot, not at your photographer, not at the cast, not at any parts of yourself, not at the dog. At Kent Hovind, yes, but not at the dog.
Well, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that at all.
Rule two is you don't shoot at what you're not trying to destroy. Rule three is that you assume it has ammunition everywhere in it that it possibly could have until you have personally checked and made sure that it hasn't. You don't take any bugger's word for it that it isn't loaded. If half the world's supply of 7.62 by 39 is coming down around your head and your mate passes you a gun and says it has 30 in the mag and one up the spout, use that, you can take his word for it that there is a round up the spout. But in normal circumstances, you bloody well check.
Absolutely.
Rule four, keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you've acquired your target. Why was he even touching the trigger?
Exactly. Daryl Frost says, what were live rounds doing there in the first place? Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, what reason would they have to even be using live rounds for anything? And FE Peer Review says, it's surprising they haven't invented prop guns that simply don't have the capacity to contain a round at all. No need even for a round which could be dubbed in after. Well, true, and I think such prop guns do exist, but
they do. They're called revolvers.
Yeah, and but it boosts up the costs of production to have visual effects people go in and add all that extra footage to make it look real. So on the one hand, I can understand them using a real gun with a blank, and on the other hand, well, it's just obviously too dangerous because somebody eventually is going to screw up, like in the Baldwin incident.
The big reason you see revolvers, pump-action shotguns, and lever-action rifles in all of these zombie movies, they're manually cycled. They don't rely on any particular recoil impulse or gas pressure at any point to cycle them. You're cycling the weapon, so it doesn't matter what it's firing. It can be firing blanks or loud blanks or dummy rounds, dummy ammunition that doesn't go bang at all, just has a spring-loaded button in place of a primer.
Yeah.
The barrel can be obstructed. It's not going to actually launch a bullet. It's not going to blow up in your hand. It's not going to blow holes in anybody. But the cylinder is going to cycle around and the hammer is going to go up and down.
Yeah. And even though a round is blank, and I agree with Nimrod, even though the rounds are blank, they are still dangerous. When I was in the military, we used the FN, the C3 or the C2, sorry, and we used a 7.62 millimeter round, and the blanks for those was the exact same casing, but the end of the casing was crimped shut with a wad at the end inside the casing, and then we had this long stuffer that we put into the muzzle that would go deep in past the muzzle flare and would provide the pressure for the piston to push the breech block back when you fire the blank. But if that pusher or that plug wasn't secured properly, you could blow that thing off and kill somebody. Simple as that. Johnny O says he can explain all of those. I would love to hear that, Johnny, because in my mind, I can't see why something like that should have happened. Clive Wells, you want the actors to react to the recoil, which you can't do convincingly by CGI. True, I understand it. I mean, there's that artistic side of it where you want things to look and feel as real as possible to make it convincing on camera. But, no matter what the cause, safety is first. And that's all there is to it. That's just the way I see it.
When they're trying to make it realistic, they tend to screw up anyway. Dirty Harry miming the recoil of his Model 27, Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum, most powerful handgun.
Yeah, it's a 44 world. Magnum. Yeah,
it could blow your head clean off. You got to ask yourself
and it will.
Question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? And he was actually mimicking the recoil of that.
Yeah,
but for that you can, because those things don't half kick. But when they dub in the sound afterwards, or they're firing blanks and just use the sound from firing blanks, they never get it right. It never actually sounds like live ammo. There's this weird difference. A blank has this kind of sound. It's not that bad, but compared to the sharp of a live round, there's always a different tone. And then they turn the volume up, so you have 9mm that sounds like somebody's letting off, 12-gauge shotgun rounds.
Exactly. 9mm are actually quite quiet. I mean, I was when I was in the service, I was issued a 9mm submachine gun, and that thing, when you fired it off, it really wasn't all that loud. 9mm is not as loud as it sounds in the movies. Nimrod says, score the blank firing attachment, a big red thing we screwed onto the top of our Steyr SIG or AIG A1. And I even fired the FN with blanks. Cool. Taddy's in the house. Mr. Bogle, how you doing, matey-o? He's lurking. Can you smell the whiskey? He's lurking. We know you're there, Teddy. We can smell the whiskey.
All right there, talk to that. How you doing? Don't tell me which beer I should open. We had the blank firing attachment as well.
Yeah.
On the SA-80, it's a bright yellow object. So you go to all this work to scream yourself up and get fully camouflaged, and then you screw this enormous bright yellow chunk of steel over the muzzle of your rifle. Oh yeah, I'm well camouflaged with that there.
Yeah, the ones we used on the FN were yellow.
It has a tube that goes down the barrel. Down the flash hider and against the end of the barrel, with a really narrow hole up the middle, which restricts the airflow out. And the gas flow, diverts the gas into the piston so it cycles. But that has such a weird way of attaching it. It fits over the muzzle, hooks behind the bayonet mount, then you screw that bar in against the end of the barrel's liner. So it's pushing on the rifling to pull it tight against the bayonet mount to hold it in place. And then you turn a nut down to tighten the bar against the frame of the BFA so that it can't come loose.
Yeah. And if the nut happened to work its way off and you jarred it enough where that hook was just precariously holding on, that thing could go flying at any minute. And if it's going towards somebody, that person's pretty much dead.
Yeah, great fist-sized chunk of steel. It's like a slice through the middle of a hand grenade without the explosives, just disappearing somewhere through the woods. And it's not even going where you pointed it. It just goes where it goes.
Yeah. The plot hole says, for your information, on film set, live rounds also include blanks. However, the round that struck the two victims had to be jacketed round. Well, yeah, it would have to be if it went through one and then hit the second person, right? So yeah, that had to be a jacketed round.
Yeah, to go through one person and seriously injure another, it almost has to be full metal jacket or a higher powered caliber with a hollow point.
Yeah. But you see, I think that's probably the basis of where the problem is, though, Johnny. The fact that they're mixing live rounds with blanks, and that should just not happen. You know, there should be a clear distinction between the two, and everybody should know this is a blank round we are using. This is a live round. You know, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting it all twisted in my head and I'm not really sure what I'm talking about, but it seems obvious to me, you know, and if I'm wrong, by all means, Johnny, tell me. Blue Feather. So should Baldwin be charged, punished, or forced to retire for the accidental murder?
Negligent
I'd
homicide.
say no. I'd say no, unless he knew what was in the weapon at the time he fired it. But as an actor, he would be depending on others to tell him whether or not it's safe. So I don't know. That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
I would charge him, the person who handed him the gun, and whoever told him that he didn't need to check it himself, with negligent homicide.
Yeah, that sounds, or manslaughter.
Yeah, it's manslaughter in Britain, negligence leading to the death of in some jurisdictions. In fact, there are some places in the States where he wasn't in the commission of a crime necessarily, but if you are the getaway driver for a robbery and one of your mates goes into the shop to rob it and gets shot, if he dies, you get charged with his murder because you were taking part in the crime that resulted in his death, which wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been doing that crime. So you murdered him.
The legal twisting there is, it's hard to get your head around, but I can understand what you're saying, you know. But if he does get charged, I don't think it should be full-blown murder. I think it should be something like manslaughter or something similar, you know.
Yeah, I think from legal speeches, it would be murder in the third degree because it wasn't with intent and it wasn't premeditated. It was
Johnny says no. Baldwin should not be held responsible for the shooting. That should be on the prop master. And I kind of have to agree with Johnny on that. I do, and I say that because Baldwin, as the performer, as the actor, he's basically relying on people around him telling him it's safe, and his actions are based on that thinking. You know, everybody says it's okay, so fine, I'll just bang. You know, and the next thing you know, two people are dead. Well, I don't think Alex should be held responsible for that.
Whoever created a situation in which he was depending on someone else to check the gun for him is guilty of negligence that resulted in the death of a person.
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
they have failed to create a safe environment, and they have a duty of care to the people
Yes.
around them to create a safe environment.
Yeah. Yeah. But that puts Alec Baldwin in the position of being in a dangerous situation without realizing he was in that situation. He just took it for granted that what they told him was okay, and he went ahead and did what he did. You know? But that's just the way I see it. Hello, Dora. Nice to see you. You're late. Where have you been? You're late. That's okay. Always nice to see you. So yeah, Johnny, that's my take on it. And if I'm wrong, by all means, let me know. I mean, I'd love to bring you on and have you explain it all to me if you like. But that's the way I see it.
I'd agree that someone has put Alec Baldwin in that dangerous situation. But
yeah.
if it was something else, if it was towing a vehicle, a lot of people won't intuitively look at a tow strap, which is just a length of, thick, heavy cloth being used to tow a truck out of the mud, and think there's a lot of tension in that. If it snaps, it's going to whip round with enough energy to cut someone in half.
Yeah.
It's not obvious. You don't think of a thick, heavy cloth strap doing that, or a rope between two ships, but it can.
Yeah.
So if somebody created a situation, where they were making a film of a truck being towed out of the mud, and the guy driving the truck that's towing the other one revs too high and snaps the tow strap, and it goes through one of the other members of the cast, that's not on that driver. That's on the guy who set up the scene, in my opinion, because that is he should have provided the right equipment. He should have told the driver not to rev. He should have made sure the other cast members were out of radius of that whiplashing tow strap. But it's a gun.
Yeah.
I know we only have 7 guns per 100 people in the UK, but we still know what guns are. We have seen World War II films and westerns.
Yeah, we all know what guns do.
No, they go bang and kill people.
Basically, what you were just saying, though, is exactly what Johnny is saying. It's the prop master's job. He is solely responsible for the firearm safety on that film set. So I think he should be the only one charged. Hello, Southern Hemisphere Globehead. Welcome. You're late. You're late. That's okay. Good to see you. The plot hole. Clive, that was Baldwin's job, though. He was to perform this stunt, and he was rehearsing with what he thought was a safe firearm. And that's my point. He thought it was safe.
Pointing it straight at the director of photography. There was no need for him to be pointing it at the director of photography, but he was. There's rule 1 broken.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. There was never any reason for him to be pointing it at the director of photography. So that could probably count if it came down to it in a charge as a misdemeanor or something. But I don't think that he should have any kind of charges related to the actual deaths, because that was outside his control. He did not know that would happen. He thought it was safe.
He could have bloody checked it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
the guy who handed him a gun should have made sure he knew to always check guns.
Yeah, well,
but
I agree.
Baldwin is over 18 years old.
I agree, but then actors are strange kind of people. They don't check nothing. They expect everybody to do for them. Their job is just to be there, look good, and act. I'm an artist.
Yeah. Imagine me on an actual Hollywood set, just walking right into the middle of it while I film. What the bloody hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Put that right the hell down now. That is not how you operate that thing. First.
Clive is right, though. Solely responsible. Everyone has a duty of care. And I can't argue with that. You are absolutely right. Anybody who is anywhere near firearms should know all the rules involved. Let's see. FE Peer Review says, was he pointing in the direction required by the scene and the director happened to be in the dangerous spot? That I don't know. I don't know the details of where people were and why. But it's unfortunate that it happened. The plot hole. Yes, there was. He was told by the director of photography and the director to point the firearm where he pointed it. The director of photography was framing the scene. So, did the gun go off accidentally, or was he told to fire it? I mean, that's the question here.
Okay, if the director of photography actually wanted a shot of him pointing the gun, as seen from the point of view of the target.
Yeah, so he was framing the shot.
I can guess that, I think it was she, would have been exactly in the way to frame the shot. But his finger had no business being on the trigger, and he still should have made sure it wasn't loaded.
FE peer review. I believe these are the kinds of questions that need to be answered before we can assign guilt. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. All the questions need to be answered before it's taken any further. But, we can't forget that rule number 1, safety primarily falls first on the prop master before anyone else. The plot hole. No, after the Brandon Lee incident, rules were placed because there were so many hands involved that the rule was changed to keeping the prop master as the sole point of responsibility. And yeah, I understand that, Johnny. And I agree with that. There should be one person who's responsible, and he should be ruling it with an iron fist. Nobody messes with the rules. Southern Hemisphere Globehead says they're supposed to be making a movie, though. I thought they used props. Even props are dangerous now. Well, yeah, that's the reality of modern filmmaking, I guess. They want realism, and you can't get realism often with a prop. You have to use the real thing. So I can understand from that side of it why they would use a real gun with real rounds for the realism. But, no matter what, safety has to come first. So Johnny says, I do agree that so many people made mistakes. Also, prop firearms are super expensive. Are they? I didn't know that.
You'd think the real one would be just as expensive.
Well, you'd think the real ones
doesn't have to have a rifled barrel or anything. It just has to go.
Yeah, you'd think the real ones would be more expensive, but the props are more expensive? Wow. Huh. This was a small budget film where corners were cut. Yeah, see, if you're going to be cutting corners and going in, you've got a small budget and you're going to cut corners, it's prop time. You can't afford to be messing with real guns and real ammunition. I missed what was wrong with the prop. Well, was there a real bullet in it? Yes, Dora. The gun was real, and they were using supposedly blank rounds. But for somehow a live round got placed into the gun, and when it was fired in the shot, it actually killed 2 people. I hope I got that right, Johnny, because I don't know all the details, but yeah. Johnny says it's a specialized piece of equipment that isn't in high demand. Okay, well that would explain the high cost for sure, but still. So, cutting corners buys a real gun. Well, somehow. It killed 1 person. Okay, that's my mistake. Thank you for correcting me, Darryl Frost. So yeah, 1 person was killed, and I take it the second person was injured.
I'd heard 1 killed, 1 injured.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I got that wrong. Thanks for the correction, folks. The plot hole. They've got dummy firearms that are basically glazed plastic, but firing prop guns are super specialized. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. 1 person killed and another injured. Okay, perfect. Thank you for clearing that up, everyone. So,
I would think you could film the live fire to get the correct sound effects with nobody anywhere within 60 degrees any direction of directly in front of the person doing the shooting. Shooting into a sand dune somewhere, you don't. Well, you might need the set around for echoes.
yeah.
But
it's not just a sound effect, though, Sableagle.
You could just shove
it's
a
also
wall plug up the smoke cloud if you're using black powder, sure.
yeah.
But you could just shove a wall plug up the barrel and put a screw into it, just on a big enough scale to create a big enough obstacle that if you put a live round in, it's going to blow the barrel apart rather than shooting someone.
Yeah, but
there you go. That'll make you careful, won't it? Then start checking what's in the top chamber.
yeah. But the reason why they're using those real guns is because it's more than just the sound effect and the smoke coming out of the barrel. I mean, they want that recoil and they want the reaction of the person's face when that gun goes off. Because for many people, even experienced firearm users, they get a distinctive look in their face when the firearm goes off. I mean, it's a natural instinct to kind of squint your eyes or grit your teeth or. And that's what they want to capture in the scene. They want the facial expression, the physical recoil of the weapon, and of course the sound effect and the smoke and all of that. So that I can see being very difficult to achieve with a prop gun. But accidents happen, obviously, and the rules that were in place to prevent that were ignored. In my opinion.
I mean, if you really want to go realistic, you're not going to get the real recoil and the real flinch from a blank anyway. So you would have to set cameras running downrange, move away from the cameras and leave them running, but then you shoot, and then go and stop the cameras and get the footage.
Yeah, yeah. So the director of photography, I guess, was a bit of an idiot standing in front of a loaded weapon, framing the shot. So when the accident happened, he kind of got in the way of.
Actually, yes, you don't need a prop gun to frame the shot. You can frame the shot with a plastic toy gun from the local toy shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Southern Hemisphere Globehead asks, are we becoming negligent as a society? I think we are considering human life to be very cheap as a society.
Yeah. Yeah. And Plot Hole says, prop guns are good for that, though. Yes, many rules were ignored. Exactly my point, Johnny. Too many rules were ignored, and people paid for it, Daryl Frost says, also at close range, a blank can be lethal. So it's possible it was a blank. Yes, they can be lethal at close range, but that would have to be really close range. And I don't think that the person who was injured or killed in this incident was close enough to be killed by a blank. It had to be a live round. And as Johnny mentioned earlier, it had to be a jacketed round because it couldn't go through 2 people otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, she had no idea it was loaded. She was told it was a cold firearm. Yeah, and she announced that when the gun was brought on the set. Did she not? Didn't she call out cold weapon?
Yep. She wasn't looking into the chamber at the time that she said it. See also, DEA agent shoots himself in the foot in classroom. I've heard of shooting yourself in the foot metaphorically, but he managed to do it literally. Unless that was a setup to scare the kids, but he Said, I am the only person in this room who's qualified to handle this weapon.
Bang.
Pulled the slide back, checked the chamber, released the slide, which chambered around, took the magazine out, said empty weapon, pointed at his own foot rather than in a safe direction, and pulled the trigger.
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes, Johnny. The prop master called out cold. So once the prop master calls out cold firearm, there's no one else will take the initiative to check it because they're trusting the prop master. Nimrod says, blanks can go through several ghosts. Yes, they can, but who gives a damn? They're already dead anyway.
Can blanks go right through ghosts? Yes, they fucking can!
I had a feeling that was going to come up in one of my streams.
I was expecting you to say it just then, actually.
Well, true, but it's, I don't know. Yes, they fucking can. If I recall, no one else is allowed to check it. Really? I did not know that, Johnny. I did not know that. So that puts even more of the responsibility on the prop master, does it not? Yeah.
Prop master tells you this gun is unloaded and that his saves are standing in front of it. You pull out your own, which is loaded, cock the hammer, point it at his head, and then step in front of the gun.
Yeah.
So that if you get hit, your gun is going to go off when you twitch. Might persuade the prop master to actually pay attention to his job.
Yeah. And yes, Clive, relying solely on one person seems reckless. It does, especially when it comes to firearms. There has to be multiple levels of checking and rechecking to maintain safety. Yeah. I'll double check, but I think the prop master is supposed to be the only one checking firearms. I would be interested in finding out if that is in fact the case, Johnny, because if that is, then he's got a lot to answer for. Okay, so Nimrod says, okay, then Baldwin was diminished responsibility for what happened. He has to have that memory for the rest of his life. Well, yeah, exactly. Johnny says, but that's what cost Brandon Lee his life. Multiple people checking.
Isn't it that
I don't-
what cost
I don't know.
Brandon Lee's life was somebody else assuming someone else had checked it?
Ah, okay. So
The guy holding the gun didn't check it because he thought someone else had, rather than anybody who's going to pick up a gun bloody well checks it.
yeah. But I thought Triple X checked the weapon. Yeah. Again, you're right, Teddy. I mean, don't just assume someone else checked it. Check it yourself. FE peer review. Good thought. Multiple levels of checks, just like commercial airline flights, engineering of buildings, etc. Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of a no-brainer when it comes to firearms or anything that has a potential to harm or kill people. Safety first all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, kick the tires if they don't wobble too much. You'll be right.
But
Open the fuel tank,
yeah.
have a look inside. If you can see fuel, it's probably got enough to get you to your destination. If not, you can divert to somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are so many areas in modern technology and modern life where safety is becoming more and more important because you don't realize what some things can do.
I mean, like what a warehouse full of ammonium nitrate fertilizer can do to Beirut.
Yeah, exactly. And half of Beirut is gone. I mean, come
someone
on.
welding the door right next to it.
Exactly. I mean, people just are far too nonchalant with technologies that have the potential to injure or kill.
So I've
They
seen someone
assume that
using
the
an angle
safety is
grinder
built into it. Yeah.
to remove a bolt where a bollard had been bolted down to the floor, to a concrete floor. The bollard's been smashed by some idiot driving a truck very, very badly. So they've lifted off the bollard and they're angle grinding off the bolts to create a smooth surface where they can put down a replacement bollard. With this huge spray of incandescent iron filings streaming off the angle grinder, as you get when you angle grind a steel bolt in half, straight across the tops of a bunch of lead acid batteries being recharged. Is there a plume of hydrogen gas coming out of any of those batteries? Just has anybody checked?
Yeah. That's okay. Go ahead. Weld. Fire it up. Okay. Kaboom. Bye-bye, Beirut. You know.
That was the place I have worked since the army, where every single story I hear about abusive relationships and terrible bosses and stuff, I think, yeah, that actually sounds familiar from working there.
Yeah.
I'm amazed the place hasn't fallen apart.
But I think that's a real problem nowadays with the advancements of technology. Yes, a lot of safety is built into technology now, and it's pretty reliable, but people are becoming too nonchalant. They're assuming that it doesn't need to be checked. And no matter how safely you build something, you still need to check, because the potential is always there for something to go wrong. You know.
Oh yeah.
That's why the entire 737 MAX fleet was grounded for over a year because of a software glitch.
Yeah, people assume it's right because it's pretty. And there were a couple of cases near here where the GPS said, you know, in 500 yards, turn left onto the A168. Okay. In 300 yards, turn right onto the railway track. Okay. And they start driving along the railway because the GPS told them to.
Yeah.
My favourite one was turn left onto the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. Okay.
Yeah.
Sploosh. It's a canal!
I mean,
it even said turn onto the canal.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right, Johnny. Things do need to change with safety rules. People are just far too reliant on the engineers who create the technology to just build in the safety, and they don't have to think about it anymore. You know, and that no matter how advanced things get, there's always going to be the need to check and double check, especially if your life could be at stake.
I think people assign supernatural capabilities to technology as well.
I agree.
You put all these things on a car with the GPS and the proximity detector and the anti-lock brakes and everything else.
Yeah.
And people start assuming that they're perfectly capable of driving through town at 90 miles per hour because they can apply 6 Gs of rearward acceleration to stop if they have to. Well, you can't.
Yeah.
There's only so much friction between your tires and the road. You're not getting more than 0.9 Gs. You're just not. Well, I know this road. That's great. How many kids are about to run out in front of you?
Yeah.
Do you know
And
that?
meanwhile, while you're going on thinking everything is hunky-dory, an old piece of technology that hasn't really changed much in the past 50 years, like the tires on your truck, could blow out and find you going off a cliff. You know, you got to check your tire pressures. You got to check your tires. You got to change them regularly. You got to make sure that when you're on ice, you're driving safely, whether your car has anti-lock brakes or not. You know, just these common sense things that people just assume are going to be okay because technology has made things safer. Well, it has to an extent, but only as far as you're willing to check.
Yeah, you go into that corner at 50 miles per hour without anti-lock brakes, and you are going to go through the queue for the school bus at 44 miles per hour with your wheels locked up. You go into that corner at 50 miles per hour with anti-lock brakes, you are going to go through the queue for the school bus at 43 miles per hour with your wheels rotating. That's that's not quite making enough difference.
No, you need to be aware enough to say, okay, well, I shouldn't be going 44 miles an hour. I should be slowing down to 20 or 30 because the conditions warrant it, you know? So, yeah, Daryl Frost says, don't drive on ice. Well, I'm sorry, but if you live in a place like Canada, where I come from, you don't often have the choice. Winter is a bitch, you know?
Yeah. Or somewhere like the road up to Yellowknife and Inuvik, the ice is the road. In summer, there's a ferry. In winter, you drive across on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
In autumn, the ice isn't thick enough to drive on yet, and in spring, the ferry isn't running because there are icebergs coming down the river, but summer or winter, you can get across.
Mm-hmm. But Blue Feather makes a good point. I've seen it too. A perfectly new and good tire with proper pressure still can blow out, and you don't know it's coming. It's going to blow when it blows, and it's going to catch you at the most inconvenient time while you're going down the highway at 100. You know, and that's happened to me. So, yeah. Army habits I kept with me: polished shoes, iron shirts, check my car's fluid levels every day I'm going to drive. If I could have a firearm, I would have the thing kept 100% serviceable. Well, yeah, you're right. It was the same for me when I was in the Army. But unfortunately, most of the world is not in the Army, and they don't really follow those kinds of rules. And Sable knows just as well as I do. In the military, life is a lot different. And if you don't check, you're going to be facing some charges.
Probably, possibly, maybe. It depends what happens and where and when and who knows about it.
Yeah.
You might be facing physical injury instead of charges.
Yeah, and true enough.
Sometimes happens.
But the plot hole says, sorry, didn't mean to take over the conversation. So how about sports ball team? Johnny, I don't mind at all. Whatever this conversation has actually turned out to be quite interesting. And to be honest, I'm not a sports person. I don't know jack shit about sports, to be honest with you. So that would be a kind of dull and one-sided conversation for me. So how about you, Sable? Are you a sports fan, or do you really don't care?
It's a slightly sore subject because I really liked orienteering, kind of liked rock climbing, but I have a problem with rock climbing that my idea of fun is what's known as a hard severe or a very severe. And people who are into rock climbing say you should start with a hard, very severe to get a taste for it and move on to an E3. Well, no, I'm quite happy to stick to the very severes. Thank you. They're fun rather than constantly thinking you're about to fall off.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Hiking, fencing, badminton, dinghy sailing, as in, you may have seen it in the Olympics. It's a strange one to put in because the Olympics used to be about military skills. I'm not sure how I would use a sailing dinghy in a military context.
Yeah. Well,
I tried caving.
I'll tell you.
It was great fun when I was 3 feet tall, but now that I'm
I'll tell you one thing.
tall,
I'll tell you one thing I do enjoy. And before you say it isn't a sport, I'm going to tell you right now, fuck you. I enjoy darts. I was chairman of the darts league here for a couple of years, and I played at the Division 1 level. So, yeah, I enjoy darts a lot. I've hit my share of 180s. So, and yes, it is a sport.
It might be treason to say it isn't actually, because there was one of our kings, James, by the grace of God, king, as in give praises unto heaven for the generous gift of this inbred lunatic. I don't know whether it was actually one of the Henrys or one of the Jameses or one of the Edwards or what, but they're all self-aggrandizing, mass-murdering lunatics up to at least 1800. who forbade all sports except archery and darts.
There you go.
As a way to force people to take part in archery so that we would have people who knew one end of a bow from the other. Yes, actually, longbows do have two different ends.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, darts.
Darts
started out.
Get shooting.
Yeah. Darts started out as actual arrows.
Yeah, I think his idea was that you would practice playing with darts in the pub, at least got you familiar with ballistic trajectories, which might be some use in archery later, whereas football wouldn't.
Yeah.
One of the problems with a longbow is that any fool can pick up a crossbow, and you can go into a village and go, right, you 30 young men over here, this is a crossbow. This is how you span the wire. This is how you load a quarrel into it. This is the rear sight. This is the foresight. You point at the target and you squeeze this, and it goes thunk, and a bolt comes out the front and sticks in the target. Take one each. Take 2 shots each at that straw bale, and then get marching. And there's your unit of crossbowmen. Whereas archery, you have to practice for an hour every Sunday from the age of 8 to the age of 25 before you're considered competent.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you end up with one shoulder bigger than the other.
Doran Koo says, kamikaze sailing dinghies. That would be an interesting thing to see. An interesting thing to watch.
The reason it's all a sore subject is try rock climbing when pulling anything with your left arm risks causing a nerve twinge and a massive spasm in your left shoulder and upper arm and lower arm all at the same time. That'll then hurt for the next 48 hours. Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And your knees don't bend properly, and you have a bad back. Thank you, Army. Thank you, Army bed, actually. God, those beds. Stupid bloody things. Try playing badminton when any impact on your knees hurts. Try dinghy sailing when you can't hook your toes under that strap and lean back over the side to balance the boat, because that will be putting stress on your knees. They don't tolerate that anymore. Thank you, Army.
I missed a message from the plot hole. He's asking, how about the GPU shortage issue? Ooh, that's a sore point for a lot of us techies. I don't know about you, Sableagle, but I love my computer, and the way things are going with the computer industry these days, it's not looking too good for an upgrade anytime soon. But what pisses me off the most lately, though, is the new release of Windows 11. Oh, that's got my panties in a twist. I mean, they've effectively cut off half the computer users in the world because their systems aren't compatible with Windows 11. I mean, most people have to go out and buy whole new systems to be able to upgrade, myself included. So I'm going to say, screw you. I'm just going to stick with Windows 10 for as long as I can until I have no choice but to upgrade. You know?
I heard bad things about Windows 10, so I was thinking maybe I'll upgrade when they've fixed it, and then Windows 11 was coming out. I thought, well, maybe Windows 11 will be better, and I can wait and upgrade to that. Then I'd have to replace the whole computer now, which I probably ought to be doing anyway, because it is old.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Johnny says, did you see that 40 series GPUs are coming out end of next year? Yeah, I did. They look awesome. They're huge. But again, it all comes down to this CPU shortage. I mean, great, they're making new models, but it's going to be years before we see them or can afford them. You know, that's the problem, I think. Clive says, I've upgraded to Linux, kernel 5.14.0. That's cool. And if you're a diehard Linux user, good on you. But I've never been a Linux user. And I really don't want to go through the hassle of completely upgrading to a whole new operating system and starting from scratch. So, and I like Windows 10. It's stable. I haven't had major problems with it. It runs well, and I see no reason why I should upgrade to Windows 11 at this time, at the cost of a complete system upgrade. It's not worth it. Blue Feather. I found workarounds for all the hard and soft that my Windows 11 PC uses so far. Yeah, I've got a patch and a working ISO for Windows 11, but I'm not going to bother installing it. I'm just going to keep using Windows 10 as long as it's not giving me any headaches. And maybe in the future I'll upgrade and see what's up. Anyways, you were going to say something, Sableagle? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, but I can't remember what. I think it was something about dark rumors that Windows 11 is going to be a service rather than a system. So you rent permission to use it rather than buying it and installing it.
Yeah, right now it's being released as a client like Windows 10, but the plan is in I think 2 or 3 years to switch it to the subscriber model, to an actual service as opposed to a software download. So. Clive Wells, I don't agree. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you're a diehard Linux user, and it's kind of like the same battle that's always gone on between Windows and Mac. I don't think Windows is an awful OS at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's a very forgiving OS, and it certainly has the widest acceptability. And software manufacturers do focus on building software for Windows. So I don't find it hampers my productivity at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of the software and the tools that I use would be difficult to find for Linux, or would probably be a hassle, in my opinion. But then I don't know much about Linux, so I can't really say for sure. Will Windows 11 make us magnetic? I don't know, peer review. I don't know.
What are the odds that the next generation of GPUs will actually need its own tower case? Instead of plugging it into the motherboard, you'll build it into a separate tower case and just connect the two cases together.
Well, I suppose that would work, but still, I mean, that would be kind of redundant. You know, why have two cases? The whole point is to put everything into the smallest case you can, so that it doesn't kind of take up half the space in your office, kind of thing. I don't know. That's just me.
Heat sink. I have this aluminium case with a fan in the front and a fan in the back, and then I have the motherboard down one side and a couple of hard drives, each with its own little fan. And plugged into the motherboard is the GPU with its 4 fans that it has built into it. And in the center of the motherboard is the CPU. And stuck to the CPU is this damn great house brick made out of layers of thin aluminium with a copper pipe looped through it to conduct heat away from the CPU to all those aluminium veins, and its own fan stuck on the front to force air through it to try to keep the CPU cool. And the more power you want to have, the more of that cooling you're going to need. But you could probably have, 20 gigahertz, 128-bit, 16-core processor, but you need a whole tower case consisting of nothing but metal veins and fans just to get the heat out of it.
Well, that's why my system is on liquid cooling. I run an AIO, and it keeps my CPU nice and stable at about 50 degrees C, even when I'm putting load through it. So yeah, my system has been really stable, and I've had very little problems. The occasional bug now and then, which usually to fix that is just do a rollback, figure out where the problem is, and reinstall the driver or whatever was offending. If you peer review friends, time for me to go. Thank you, Steaming Up a Reason, for hosting. FE Peer Review, thank you for coming up. I really do appreciate you coming out, and we've had a good conversation tonight. Thank you for participating. You go ahead. You have yourself a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week, I hope. Dora, running Debian stable or old stable everywhere. I don't care about the kernels if the hardware is supported. Haven't compiled a kernel in a decade. Wow, you are a serious Linux user, aren't you, Dora?
I remember compiling and building. Write it in C, compile, and then build it and the stuff it was told to include together to create an actual executable.
Yeah, it's Linux to me seems like the perfect OS for the real
Nerd.
tech geeks who like to do everything, like build the kernels and go through all the rigmarole of putting in distros, and it's not my bag. It's not my bag. It really is.
I can see a lot of arguments for doing that, especially from certain specialist backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like, I want to network a bunch of computers together to run this software, and I don't want anybody to be able to put a virus on them. Well, here's my custom-built operating system that just ain't going to cooperate with any plans you may have that may put you at risk of a virus, because it only talks to other systems that are running it.
Yeah. But then by the same token, it doesn't want to play nice with the software you try and install either.
Windows for warships and Windows for airliners. I mean, can you imagine that? Dollars Tower, this is Speedbird 575. Turning finals, 3 greens for... Oh, hang on. It says Windows has nearly finished updating your airliner, which now needs to be restarted. Where's the bloody... later?
I don't think it ever gets that bad. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. And for Linux users, I certainly understand why they love them. And if that's the operating system they're most comfortable with, then go for it. And I'm glad that they're continuing to develop it and support it. And yeah, that's great. But for me, I find Windows is a great operating system, and it does what I needed to do when I needed to do it. Sure, there are things about it that do kind of get to me once in a while, but generally, I really don't have any major issues with Windows. I kind of like it, to be honest. And Windows 10 is the most stable version they've had yet. So.
Well, for that matter, it would be even worse if it was EA. Can you imagine that? You get these smart guns you see with the digital round counter and everything in a video game. Every time you put a magazine in, it would go, EA guns, it's in the rounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do the same thing on your warship. You traverse all turrets to bearing 2883, set for range 5 miles, and up comes a pop-up saying you need to validate your installation before it'll let you aim your guns. Please enter the code from the back of the box in which you got the DVD. Oh, I don't know. You got the box.
Plot says he has to go back to work. I'm sorry, I missed that. Well, if you're still around, Johnny, thanks for coming by. It was a great conversation, and I hope you'll be back next week. And have a good day at work. Cheers, buddy. Okay, so where are we? I've been using Unix like since university. 1995. Windows was for games only. Either use consoles now or native Steam Linux games. Okay. I've been using Debian Linux since spring 1994. Some people I knew developed DPKG, deselect, etc. Again, that's all Greek to me. I really don't know anything about those systems, but hey,
DPKG
it's obviously their bag.
Kindergarten.
Daniel Pratt's Kindergarten. Oh God. Oh, there's a goof. What a loser that man is. And you know who's even worse? Leo. That guy is the most ignorant, self-important, lying sack of horse crap ever. The guy makes no sense. He hasn't got a clue, not a single clue what's going on.
I can't even be bothered with the debunks of that guy. It's just
Oh,
he's never going to be interesting. Just stop. You know.
yeah, it's just you're stupid. Shut up. Move on. Yeah. I mean, he is. He's
That in Discord and in videos and in YouTube comments, they've stopped saying anything.
wow.
They've actually realised that every time they say anything, they get debunked.
But
Now
all they
they're
have
just
to do is
going down
open their
to,
mouth.
I'm not making any predictions. I'm not committing to anything. I'm not commenting on that. Give me proof. I haven't seen any proof. Give me proof. I'm not commenting. I'm not making any predictions. Just prove this.
Yeah. Do your own research. Screw you, you asshole. You obviously haven't done research once in your entire life. I'd be surprised if the idiot could even spell research. No. I'm pretty much done with flat earth. I've just had enough. Tomorrow I'm releasing my last flat earth video debunk. It's not even a debunk, it's part 2 of last week's video. That's it. I'm done with flat earth. I'm going to have to try and think of new videos to make something different, because flat earth is it's pointless. It really is pointless. No matter what you say, no matter how much you bring to the table, they're always going to end it with nuh-uh and come back with the same tired old crap again and again and again.
Rachel's latest grift is to claim that Einstein replaced Newton, so you've got to explain things in terms of Einsteinian physics now. She's not going to explain any explanations in terms of Newtonian. So I have asked her to write a program that will use Einsteinian physics to calculate the trajectory of a projectile fired from the Earth's surface, any given latitude, longitude, azimuth, elevation, and velocity, and predict where it'll come back down.
Yeah. Ask her if she can spell Einstein. Yeah. If Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. You're probably right, Daryl. You're probably right.
I think cats pushed Rachie over the edge the week whenever he was talking to her, but maybe she was already over the edge and he just stepped on her fingers. You do videos about anti-vaxxers.
Well, no, I don't want to get into that. Anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers, because they just make me so angry. And
One way to get yourself demonetized, isn't it?
well, I'm not monetized yet anyway, so that really doesn't matter. But the thing is, I'm tired of yelling and screaming at things that are never going to change because they're just ignorant. They'll just keep doing their stupid shit, spreading their stupid lies and misinformation, and just like flat earth, everything is just nuh-uh. I'm right. Don't do it. Don't take the vax. Don't wear your mask. It's all bullshit. Okay, fine. Something happens to you, don't cry.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, no entry without a mask. Vulnerable people work here or whatever. Mask up or stay out. And a whole lot of people show up without masks and try to force their way in.
Yeah. And then those Karens.
9x19 or a couple of barrels of number 4 buckshot would improve the situation.
They always have that same stupid argument. They go into the stores without their masks and they start to, this is a public place. You can't tell me what I can and cannot do in a public place. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. That place is owned by the company that's running it. Walmart, even though it's open to the public for the public's convenience, for the public's use, it's still private property. It's owned by Walmart. And if Walmart says you're not getting in without a mask, screw the hell off. That's the way I see it.
I think they should go to the taser within the first 1 second. Mom, wear a mask. I'm not going to bang.
I think stores should be allowed to set up auto tasers. As soon as somebody without a mask walks in the door, zap.
I mean, there are some people who legitimately cannot wear a mask.
Well,
But
if that is the case, then stay the hell at home and send somebody else to do your shopping, or shop online if it's that bad, you know.
yeah, there should be a way to get certified that you legitimately have a reason not to wear a mask.
All the
And
more
there's
reason why
like
you
a
should
code
stay
you
at
can
home.
use that gets the government to cover the cost of delivery so that you can do your shopping online instead.
Exactly.
So
But
you don't have to
regardless
tell
of
anyone
whether
the
you're-
reason. You can just not go in there without a mask.
Yeah,
Not going in there at all.
And that's the point I'm making. Even if you have a legitimate reason for not wearing a mask and you're certified and you can prove it with documentation, that's even more reason for you to stay the hell at home and send somebody else to do your shopping or shop online. And maybe, yes, I think that's a good idea. Government can offer some kind of financial support for people like that to pay for the cost of shipping, or to augment the high cost of shopping online. That I would agree with. I would have no problem supporting that. But don't think just because you're certified or you have a legitimate reason for not wearing a mask that you have the right to go out in public and infect others. You know, when there's no need for it. Stay the hell at home. Sorry, but that's how I feel. I mean, this pandemic, man, it's killing people, and I just can't understand why so many people can't see that. It's killing people. It's got nothing to do with your rights. It's got nothing to do with your freedoms. It's about the public safety of everyone.
There was someone in the comments under a video recently saying, people die, get over it, grow the fuck up and move on. Yeah. Technically, yes,
Yeah.
people do die anyway. The question of whether they die now or 10 years from now,
Yeah.
whether this kid's grandparents are going to die when this kid is 6 or when this kid is 26,
Yeah.
that's something we can change. According to JHU, we're up to 4,941,160 deaths.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can say to me to justify that. If you're not wearing your mask in public, then you're to blame as much as anyone else. Okay? That's all there is to it. This is serious crap, people. Get over yourselves. You don't know shit about the dangers of wearing a mask because there is none. Doctors have been wearing them day in, day out in their jobs for centuries. Okay?
Oh, you asked about the UK coming out of lockdown. On Johns Hopkins University's website for the statistics, by default, it's sorted into cases in the last 28 days. And the list of countries by cases in the last 28 days is USA, 2.5 million, UK, 1.1 million, Turkey, 800,000, Russia, 770,000, India, 535,000, Brazil, 384,000. The UK is in second place, despite being 21st on the list of countries by population. And we're relaxing the lockdown at this point?
It's too soon for most places to be relaxing. I mean, here in Vietnam, we relaxed a fair bit for a while, and then the Delta variant hit, and we've been under strict rules ever since. It's only now it's starting to loosen up a little bit again, but the masks and all that stuff is still in place. And for
Vietnam
people who refuse to wear their masks and don't want to take the vaccine, you better thank your lucky stars you're not living here in Vietnam, Because if you have it and you spread it to someone else and that someone dies, you're going to be spending the next 10 to 12 years in prison for it. And if they can prove that you have it and you're not wearing your masks or taking the vaccine, you're looking at more prison time and a huge fine to boot. And if you're a foreign natural, you're out of the country now.
Yeah, if you want to do that in the USA, you have to treat almost everyone as a foreign national because most of them ain't native. Vietnam is way down that list with 144,550 new cases in the last 28 days.
That's right.
Approximately 1.5 of as many cases as the UK has had, where Vietnam has approximately 1.5 times the population of the UK. So you're doing 10 times better than we are.
Because they don't take no crap here. They don't fool around with this shit. They come down hard. And you will follow the rules or you're paying for it.
Well, yeah, Nimrod says, I wear masks while working out at the gym and I have no problems breathing.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I actually
matter
tested
of fact, for the past month, my lady and I have gotten into wearing a double mask. The fibrous paper one underneath, and then a cloth one over that. And I have no problem. Doesn't affect my breathing any at all.
Well, when people started saying, you can't wear a mask, it'll cut off your oxygen supply and everything else.
Oh, that's crap.
I knew they were full of shit, but I thought, you can't just say bullshit. You've got to, show them.
Yeah.
So I got the leg off a pair of trousers that wore thin and tore at the thigh, rolled up so it's 8 layers of admittedly worn clothing grade cotton. 3 actual charity event washable, thick, fluffy cloth masks. And a Palestinian headscarf. And I went out and cycled round and round a 2-kilometer route wearing one of those pulse oximeters. And I was cycling uphill on a heavy bicycle with 3 masks on at once and the headscarf over them with 99% oxygen saturation.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. You just proved every last one of those idiots wrong. Masks have absolutely no bearing on your ability to breathe. Period. And anybody who says different is a friggin' idiot. Yeah.
I was talking to someone in a member of staff in the supermarket recently, and the whole time she was typing stuff on the computer, making notes on a clipboard, reading stuff from a clipboard, and adjusting a mask. Could you get hold of it and pull it away from mouth and nose to speak and put it back in place and then write some more? The whole point of the mask is that it catches the potentially infectious saliva droplets coming out of your mouth when you speak, when you breathe, coming out of your nose as well. But mostly there is saliva spraying out of your mouth every time you speak. You can test this. Just get a piece of office paper, hold it in front of your mouth and have a conversation, and then take a good look at that paper. It gets spattered. The mask is there to catch that saliva because that saliva might be infectious. If you are constantly touching the mask, that saliva is going on your fingers and all over everything you touch. You are kind of defeating the purpose.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
That's right.
Then you go around and you see the shift supervisor with his mask around his neck, going from department to department, speaking very loudly to all the staff who are working on the floor. So he's spraying his saliva all over everything.
Yeah.
Then you see a dozen customers not wearing masks at all, and there's always somebody with it over his chin and just touching his upper lip with his nose completely exposed. And should I go around and tell everyone in the entire building that it's supposed to be over your mouth and nose, covering them both, and you're supposed to leave it there the whole time and not touch it? Or could I just get it out?
Exactly. Medora says, relax, vaccinated only. People not vaxxed will not do it unless there is some pressure. If there are enough vaccines for the population. Yeah, I kind of agree with that vaccine passport. If you can show that you have been vaccinated, then maybe things can be a little bit relaxed for you because you've gone out and done what you needed to do to protect yourself and others. But I still think you should be wearing your mask anyway. But yeah, I don't have a problem with the idea of that vaccine passport. I think it might be a good idea for some places.
That would be great
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
enough places did it. If enough places went, if you have the proper vaccine certificate, and the thing is actually difficult to fake,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
can come in, and if you don't have it, you can write off.
yeah.
The cinemas, the
most-
pavement cafes, the restaurants, the coffee shops, the pizzeria,
Yeah.
the library, the works are only accessible to people who have been vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
But I
But
think
most
with the way
emphysema
people are,
sufferers-
you would need a law that says people aren't allowed to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause there are places like no masks allowed. Like, well, that business should.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That if a business is going to put up a sign that says no masks allowed, that business should be shut down. Period.
Yeah.
Because they're going against public safety. You know,
Nationalised.
and if you do have a problem
This
with
business is now the
serious,
property of the people, and you there are fired.
yeah. You know, but if a person really does legitimately have breathing problems and finds it difficult to wear a mask, then, you know, again, stay home. But, you know, for especially for emphysema sufferers, they often will get government assistance for portable oxygen tanks. So they can be on oxygen underneath their mask. So again, it totally negates the argument of not needing to wear a mask. You know? But again, I mean, it's just people being willfully ignorant or trying to force their selfish views of what they think are their rights and their freedoms. And they think that all the rules stop where their rights and freedoms start, kind of thing, or vice versa.
And then there are the ones saying, well, if you're that worried about it, you stay home, but I'm going to keep partying.
Yeah,
Which is
bullshit.
exactly the equivalent of putting your fingertip quarter of an inch from somebody's eye and saying, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you.
Yeah.
One of these days, somebody's going to try that when I'm around, and I'm going to break his finger,
Mhm.
smack him in the head, and then say, I am touching you. And then hit him again. Or just grab him by the neck and say, I'm touching you. And squeeze. I am touching you. I am touching you. Because fuck that behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. But eventually, you know, all of these anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers, they're going to find themselves in a big trouble because this pandemic eventually is going to hit them. And then they're going to be the first one at the hospitals begging for medical care and thinking they're going to get at the head of the line because they're in most need at that time. Bullshit. You brought it on yourself.
Oh, Bo's already, Bo the Fifth Column has already done a video about this one where somebody was in a shop where he was saying that he was a smoker, he was over a certain age, he had this health condition. If he actually did get infected, he was going to be treated as an urgent case and he'd go straight to the front of the line. And the shop switched into nurse mode and said, honey, Bo says, nurses all have this one voice they use when they need to tell you, convey information directly into your head, and it is going in. Honey, those are the reasons they're not even going to try to save you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a charged topic that's been going around for a long time, and there's some pretty strong feelings on both sides. It's unfortunate, but hopefully this is all going to be over soon, and we can get back to normal life. That's all we can hope for. You know, stay away from the people who refuse to do what they should be doing, and just take care of yourself the best you can. And that's about all I can say. You know, sad but true. Let's see. We've got some more comments in the side here. Daryl Frost, Nimrod, I'm asthmatic and other problems. It's a bit harder to breathe, but I have never had lower than 98% of oxygen after working out. There you go. So even an asthmatic can get by wearing a mask. Cool. Legitimately sick people wear masks. The idiots use medical exemption just to irritate people. And I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, because I can't see any medical profession in their right mind advising that you don't wear a mask or don't get vaxxed. I just don't see it, unless they're a quack.
Well, there are specific individuals who genuinely can't, because, you know, the sensation of cloth over the mouth causes panic attacks because of all those times that, open quote, parent, close quote, tried to asphyxiate you. Or you can't have the vaccine because you're allergic to something that's in it and it would kill you.
All right.
But that's 0.001% of the population. That's
right, exactly. That those people are so few and far between that asking them to stay the hell home and let others go out and do what they need done is even more pronounced. I mean, yes, there are people
only if they're going to pay them to stay home.
But the people who complain about, well, I have allergic reactions to this or that or the others, they are able to get vaccinated with other types of vaccines that don't have those particular ingredients. And they're working on making that more of a possibility for those who truly do have allergies to some of the ingredients. But again, they're so few and far between that, you know, even if they do have an allergic reaction to the vaccine, there's probably medications they can take to counteract the reaction. So.
And then you get the ones who tell you about how dangerous it is that it has mercury in it. Well, no, it doesn't actually. There are very few that have mercury in these days. And anyway, that's thimerosal, not mercury.
Yeah.
There is a big difference between elemental sodium and elemental chlorine and sodium chloride.
Oh, it has so much aluminium in it, it's gonna kill me. Bullshit. There's more aluminium in one breath you take than in any vaccine you've ever had.
So I looked up the total amount of aluminium in an entire childhood course of vaccines. And if you have family members who come around for Tet or Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it is in your country, and the kids in that part of your extended family are the only people who drink Coca-Cola. So you have a 24-pack of Coca-Cola in the pantry, and they drink 18. So when they're coming around next time, you get another 24-pack, and they drink the last 6 of last year's pack and half of the new pack. I mean, that stuff's got a 3-year shelf life. It's probably got a 50-year shelf life, really, but the best before is years. It's fine. There is more aluminium in each can of last year's pack of Coca-Cola than there is in an entire childhood course of vaccines.
There you go. Exactly my point. I mean,
Coca-Cola is one of my favorite ones for how to catch out your senator or representative or candidate for it.
That's the problem with anti-vaxxers, though. They go on these crazy searches for all the ingredients of a vaccination, and they pick out the ones that could be dangerous. And then they ignore the fact that the quality and the quantity of that substance in the vaccine is so minutely small. You would need a truckload of this stuff for it to have any detrimental effect on you. But that doesn't matter. The fact that it's in there is enough for them to say, "Oh, this is bad. It's going to kill you." Idiot.
That's one of my things for ask your senator, or ask the guy who's running to be senator or representative or whatever. Because Coca-Cola has moved from one state to another, which they actually did for legitimate, good political reasons, and I support the move. I thought that was great. But what they haven't done in moving from one state to the other is something that none of the state government in their new home state has actually insisted that they do, is take any precautions at all to prevent a certain toxin from getting into their drinks. And you may think, well, of course they're going to take precautions, but actually this stuff did legitimately get into their drinks. It was, its presence was not only detected but measured. And let me just find the full list. So, I think anyone who's running for office in that state really ought to be asked why they're not taking, why they haven't put any pressure on Coca-Cola, or what they're going to do about the fact that the Coca-Cola Corporation isn't taking any precautions at all to prevent this incredibly dangerous toxin getting into their products. There's children drinking this stuff, right? Seizures, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, gastrointestinal upset, agitation, anxiety, restlessness, insomnia, tachycardia, tremors, tachycardia again, psychomotor agitation, and in some cases, death, which I think is a pretty scary list of possible toxic effects from, it's 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine is the actual name of the chemical. And if Coca-Cola have not made any undertakings or promises or anything to prevent that stuff getting into their products in the future, and apparently they've just been welcomed into the state without anybody saying anything about it. And if you want to be our representative, I want to know what you're going to do about that situation. And the actual reason you should ask the candidate for representative this is to see how they respond to being asked a question for which they weren't prepared. 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine is better known as caffeine, and we all knew it was in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. More of it in there than coffee. So, but anyways, we are coming up to 11, so it's time for us to shut this thing down, but I just want to take a minute to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We've had some good conversation tonight. I've really, really enjoyed this. And I really want to thank you for coming on, Sableagle. It was fun having this talk with you.
Cool. Thank you for having me on there.
Yeah, it was really good to have you. Yeah, no worries. No worries. That's why you're here. To join the conversation and say your piece, and I'm glad you were comfortable enough to come and join me. So thank you very much, and to everybody in the side chat, thanks for coming out. I'm going to hit the road, well, so to speak, and I hope I see you all again next week. And don't forget, I'll see you again tomorrow on the flip side with Craft Tequila. So come and join me there. And until then, thanks for coming out, everyone, and have yourself a good